About 20 years ago when I first started busking, all anyone would ever take out with them would be an acoustic guitar, a case to collect the money in, and that would be it. In today's video, I'm going to take a look at what has changed. This week's video is going to be a look at all the things I take out with me when I am busking. Now, as I said in the intro, when I first started, this was about 20 years ago when I just graduated from university, all that anyone would ever use when they were busking would just be an acoustic guitar and their voice. That would be it. You would have a case in front of you, your guitar case to collect the money that people are putting in, but you wouldn't be using anything else. This is just about as traditional, old school busking as you can get, just you, your voice, nothing else. In the intervening years, as anyone who has walked through Buchanan Street here in Glasgow will have noticed, things have got a little bit different and now people are going out with a whole lot of equipment that they use for busking now. Now there are several reasons why people do this. Now the most obvious one is to make yourself louder. If you're just playing an acoustic guitar out in a wide open space, that sound isn't going to travel very far. You're not going to be able to make yourself heard, particularly in a loud town or city centre. Now, if you're playing back in the day at a music hall or theatre, you might well be used to speaking unamplified, playing unamplified and being heard. People would be able to project their voice, you'd be trained for years to do that. But the theatre itself is an enclosed space, it keeps all the sound in. When you're playing outside, there's very little for the sound waves to deflect off, come back at you. The sound just it escapes out into the air and doesn't come back. It's very hard to make yourself heard. So the obvious thing is to bring in an amplifier, such as the Roland Street Cube that I use for busking, and make yourself louder, amplify yourself. This is quite a common one for buskers to use. This has got an XLR and jack input, combo jack, where you can connect a microphone for singing or an instrument, 2-band EQ, delay and reverb, and a volume control. The jack input for the guitar, 3-band EQ, some effects, chorus, flanger, phase and tremolo, delay and reverb, some different amp simulators if you're looking to get a more electric sound if you're playing electric guitar, gain and volume. So you can set this up and be heard in an open space. But the main reason I started to get this was not so that I would be able to be much louder, it was actually so that I could be quieter. When I'm busking, singing unplugged, I would have to be singing incredibly loud, really projecting in order to be heard, and I would go out and sing for hours and come back and my throat would just be red raw from singing that loud all day. Getting the amplifier and being able to use that to project saved my voice. It meant that I was able to sing much quieter. I didn't have to be projecting as much. Obviously still singing properly, still projecting as well as I could, but didn't have to be forcing it. It also meant I could play quieter songs, finger picking things that wouldn't carry in an unplugged environment over the noise of the city. So this has been a brilliant investment for me and for many other buskers. But as I say, it's not necessarily so that we can be louder. We want to be loud enough to be heard, but sometimes it can be so that we can perform more quietly ourselves. Although that is something that I wish every busker would learn, is that it doesn't have to be everything turned up to 11, particularly the difference between gain and volume. That is something that everybody who uses one of these needs to learn. Gain is how much amplification you're putting into the signal. Volume is how loud it's being played. That signal. So if you turn the gain all the way up rather than the volume, you're going to be playing a distorted signal and it's just going to sound horrible. So buskers, please do learn the difference between gain and volume. I don't want to go into all that in this video, but do learn that. Now what I'm going to do now is talk you through all the equipment that I have in my case. This is the one that I use for busking. All my busking gear is between this case and a bag that I'll show you there. So this is a bit of a, inspired by Rhett Shull's What's in His Touring Bag video that went out a wee while ago. This is what's in my busking bag. Let's start off with the most obvious thing. Is the guitar itself. Now, this is my Tanglewood acoustic. This is the guitar that I have busked with for most of my musical career. This was my main gigging guitar. You'll have seen a video of it being refretted recently as well. As, it had been played to death. It was due a bit of attention. It's now playing much better than it has done in a long time. It has been through the wars. You will see it is covered in dents and scrapes and scratches from years of being played in all conditions. The original pickup, that was long gone. That was taken out by years of playing in all sorts of Scottish weather. This is its third pickup. It's not a brilliant one, it's just a very basic cheap Soundhole pickup. It doesn't sound fantastic, but it was all I had the budget for at the time. And I don't tend to use the best, most expensive equipment for busking anyway, because as I said, I had that experience of two pickups having been killed by the Scottish weather, particularly the rain. Even on the nicest, sunniest day, you can always find yourself in a sudden downpour that can just kill electronic equipment very easily. So I tend to keep my good gear for when I'm playing indoors and I know it's going to be safe. If you're playing amped up, you're going to need microphone. This is a Shure SM58, pretty much industry standard vocal dynamic microphone. As I say, I do tend to use less expensive equipment for busking. This is quite a good microphone. I did have a cheaper one somewhere around here, which I think I've lost now, which I used to use for busking so that I didn't have to take out my expensive gear. It died too. Quite a common theme with busking equipment, as I say, playing in Scottish weathers, that will do it. Also in here, cables, XLR to connect the microphone to the amplifier, jack to jack to connect the guitar. Also in here, merchandise. Always very handy to have some CDs and things with you. I know most people these days will just put up a link to their Spotify page, but Spotify pays artists practically nothing, so it's nice to have some CDs that you can sell, actually make something with. As well as selling CDs. As I say, most people are using Spotify these days. Another thing that has changed since I started is that not everybody is carrying cash anymore. So I've invested in one of these. This is a card reader, so that I can now take contactless card payments for CDs, for merch, and for anyone who wants to put a donation in but isn't carrying cash anymore. Which leads me on to another, what I've found is a very important piece of equipment that I have to carry around with me all the time now, is a battery pack. The battery in this will wear down pretty quickly over the day. This lets me charge that up. I can also charge the camera that I'm using to film this with off this. I can charge up my iPod for music to listen to on the way home. These are a fantastic little investment for anyone who's going out busking or just generally using any electronic equipment somewhere where you can't plug in to recharge, and the cable to connect it up. Also in my bag, what else do I carry as standard? Spare strings, absolutely vital. If you're going busking, always have spares of everything if you can, because I guarantee you will break I don't know how many strings. If I had a quid for every string that I have broken whilst I've been busking, I could afford to replace my strings more often. What else do I carry in the bag? I've been going on and on. I'll put my teeth in and try and say that again. I've been going on and on about how poor the Scottish weather can be. Very, very occasionally it is even nice. So I keep sunglasses in the case so that I can see what I'm doing if I've got the sun blaring into my eyes. And something just fell over behind me. I don't know what that was. One last thing that I always keep in the case as well. Some throat sweets, some strepsils. If you come off the end of a long busk, say you've been playing for hours, even with the amplifier so I'm not having to really sing very loudly, I'm still putting a fair amount of stress through my voice. So having something to just ease it off afterwards is very handy. But as I say, this is for afterwards, not before, because you don't want to take anything that is going to numb your throat before you start going out, because if you start doing that, if you do any damage and your throat is numb, you're not going to notice it, and you can do even worse damage and really give yourself a sore throat, strain vocal cords. So that is for after the busk, not before. I also have to cart around this these days, and in this bag is all my sheet music. So let's dig this out. Okay, let's start off with what's in this bag. A collapsible microphone stand. Now this has been an absolute game changer for me. The old mic stand that I've been carrying, in fact most mic stands, are far too big to fit into a small bag like that I can cart around for busking. So I was having to walk around with massive massive microphone stands that were about this size, and trying to negotiate my way around trains and buses without clobbering anyone with the mic stand. But this one comes apart, folds down very neatly, fits into the bag. Much, much handier. Also in here is the music stand with a little sign attached so that people can look me up, find me, just a little bit of information about who I am, what I'm doing. The single most important thing to note on here, if you're using sheet music and you're playing outside, are these little clips here. Now, these are little plastic clips that I've just got stuck on my stand to store them with. But these clip around the music folders for the sheet music, and these stop the pages blowing around in the wind. This is an absolute nightmare when you're playing outside. The slightest breeze will have your sheet music flapping about in front of you, and you go to look at a particularly complicated bit that you're about to play and realise that it's flapped onto about 3 songs down the set from where you are, and you have no idea what you're about to play. I do use sheet music when I'm busking. I used to just do everything off the top of my head, but there's only so many songs that I can keep in there at any one time, and I'm playing this many in a typical busking day. I'm also trying to keep in my head songs for martial chip, for pop art, for everything. So now I tend to use sheet music for most things, because between all the different bands, the Kayleys and everything, I'm trying to keep this much music in my head at any one time. That is just not going to happen. So yeah, I carry a music stand around with me, and I use sheet music for everything, because otherwise, I'm in my 40s, I will forget things. One other thing that is in that bag: never ever go out busking without some water, or your throat will die. Also in here, I have found I've needed these a couple of times. Some small M6 screws. This is the standard thread that the sheet music stand and the microphone stand use, and these do wear out. I've had a couple of times where I've gone to set up the music stand, and the thread has just gone from over tightening, and the thing has just collapsed. The microphone stand was a fairly cheap one from Amazon, so the threads weren't particularly good quality to begin with, so they wore out very quickly. So some replacement screws, M6 loop screws, in the bag. It's very, very handy to keep things going. As I say, take spares for absolutely everything. You will need them at some point. So that is a little tour of all the stuff that I have to carry around when I'm busking out. It's a long, long way from when I first started, when it was just me in the street with a guitar.
To sleep, a song from the darkest hour, secrets I can't keep inside of the day. Swing from high to deep, extremes of sweet and sour. Hope that God exists, I hope, I pray. Drawn by the undertow, my life is out of control. I believe this wave will bear my way, so let it flow. Oh, sit down, oh, sit down, oh, sit down, sit down next to me. Sit down, 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 in sympathy.
Thank you for watching today's quick little video tour around my acoustic busking gear. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have, then I've got my little virtual guitar case out for any donations. If you'd like to go to patreon.com/David Burns, you can support me there. It helps fund making the videos, keeps the bills paid, and just generally keeps me going. You can subscribe for as little as £1 a month. All very much appreciated. Every little donation there helps. If you see me out busking, throw me a quid somewhere. That's be very kind of you. And yes, please click like, subscribe, do all the usual YouTube stuff that helps keep the channel going. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I will see you again next time. Bye bye.